Members, the House is resumed. We're on the first reading of the Policing Cost Recovery Amendment Bill. Before the dinner break, David Clendon was speaking and has 5 minutes and 15 seconds remaining.
Mr Speaker.
I call David Clendon.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. So before the break, I was making the point that this is simply a user pays by stealth. This is an attempt to introduce the mechanism which will enable charging of core public services, in this case policing, in a way that starts off looking quite minimal, quite benign, but in fact inevitably it will increase, it will expand, and that's simply the wrong model to be funding our police force. So the proposition in some of these, in the notes in the explanatory note, as I was mentioning before the break, the notion of efficiency in consumption, the proposition that demand not strictly necessary, but occurs because there's no charge effectively. It's proposing that people are getting these vettings done for reasons which are not significant or real, that they're simply doing it because it's free. I simply don't accept that proposition. So there's a notion here which efficiency in production, we're told. Users facing a nominal price will demand high quality services from police. This will drive police to be innovative and seek production efficiencies. So I believe every one of our hard-working, diligent police officers, from the newest recruit up to the commissioner, should be offended by that comment. It suggests that our police will work a little bit harder, a little bit more efficiently, because they're clipping the ticket, because there's an actual fee involved. I absolutely reject that, and I do believe that it's almost a slur. Police officers could quite rightly be offended by that proposition, that they will work harder and smarter and more effectively because there's going to be a $7 invoice attached to their action. That is nonsense, sir. I have great confidence in our police force. There are occasional falls from grace. That's unfortunate, but for the most part they do their job very well. They work very hard. The idea they'll do a little bit better because they can hand somebody a $7 invoice is simply offensive, sir. Similarly, the notion that charging for these services which allegedly benefit individuals, but as I've already made the point, in fact there's significantly more public benefit, for example in vetting people before they work with children, than there is individual benefit. We're told nevertheless this will free up resources for the delivery of frontline and preventative services. I cannot see where vetting is not a preventative service. It is in the nature of vetting that you ensure that these people who are going to work with children are appropriate people to be left, to be trusted with the care and custody of children. How is that anything but a preventative service? So I think this justification we're offered has tried so hard to justify something which ought not to happen that they've had to go to these extreme lengths and offer this very convoluted logic, as I've said. So we're told that initially the cost will be, well, in May when the press release came out from the then Minister, we were told a fee of around $5 to $7 has been proposed. Already, before we're even in place, we've gone to the top of that range, $7. I think there's an indication there that charging will only increase. More significantly, we are told that this is about cost recovery. The changes, we are told, will allow the police to recover about $2.2 million a year. $2.2 million is not an insignificant amount of money, but put it against the overall police budget, and I'm relying on my memory here, but I believe it's about $1.5 billion a year we spend on policing. To suggest that this relative drop in the bucket, that this whole piece of legislation enabling charging is about clawing back $2.2 million out of a $1.5 billion budget, I think, sir, is nonsense. It's simply privatisation, or rather user pays by stealth. It is just the opening up, softening up in a sense of the New Zealand public to accept that, oh yes, if you want a service from the police force, you're obliged to pay for it. So that's a road that the Greens are certainly not interested in going down. The point was made earlier that some organisations will be exempted from vetting charges. I guess if they plead hardship or some other concern, that they will be heard and that they and the volunteers working for them will be excused this charge. What about the transaction costs that involves? Again, what is the actual net benefit to the police out of this claimed $2.2 million? Take away the costs involved in gathering that money in the day-to-day management of transactions. That $2.2 million will disappear very quickly, or a large chunk of it. And the costs that it imposes on NGOs, who typically are supported by philanthropic funding, often by government grants, it creates this money go round where these organisations simply will be put at cost. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.